I'm not even gonna lie. I got a good one for y'all. Wow, I got an even better one after that on episode 7. Episode 6 today we're gonna talk about the false history, okay? And did a little research on it, but here's what's funny about it. Okay, so basically the false history conspiracy is based on the doctrine of phantom time hypothesis, which basically means that the Romans, along with the church, changed the year of Anno Dominion, which is the year of our Lord or something like that, and retrofitted it to where it seems like not only did the Roman Empire lasted longer than it actually did, which some people stated lasted about 1,500 years, but also that Charlemagne never existed. And it also says that, along with that theory as well, that along with Emperor Otto, Pope Sylvester, and then also with Constantine as well, that they all got together in this secret meeting to actually change history, kind of, ignore history basically. And he basically said the phantom time is basically like 297 years from like 614 AD to like 911 AD. So basically what it is, and when you think about it, with the pseudo history, it can actually be closely related to the meeting far as the Nicene Council. Now, to give you just a little bit of history on the Council of Nicaea. Basically, it took place in Nicaea, okay, which is a area within current Turkey, and there it was a council of bishops that met with the Holy Roman Emperor or Roman Emperor Constantine the First. Okay, the other one was Constantine the Sixth, I think, but this one at this meeting it was Constantine the First. All right, Constantine's have a lot to do with like trying to change things. Okay, so in this meeting, basically there was a couple of issues that were being dealt with. First, the uniform observance of Easter itself, okay? And then second, the nature of the Son of God, and basically saying his relationship to God as being his father. So that was part of the little bit of the meeting itself. Now, when we look at that, Constantine the First being part of that Council of Nicaea in order to proclaim that. And then we're also looking at the other Constantine within the hypothesis itself, which is basically Constantine the 6th, okay? I think, no, the 7th. I had to look it up real quick. Constantine the 7th. I was off by one. So, with Constantine the 7th having another meeting in which they describe this period of history that never even existed. What it seems like is that when we look at it, a lot of the false history is having to do with the Romans trying to make it look like they were more powerful than they actually were. We know for a fact that to history goes the victor. To the victor goes history, basically. So that means basically if you got another powerful country that comes in and invade this smaller country, they're going to rewrite that country's history, especially if they beat them. So when whoever wins the battles, the wars, they get to write history however they want, and they're going to be biased. They're not going to tell the truth. And anybody who can tell the truth, they're going to kill them off. Now, there's also things that said, and this is not a theory, but it's also saying that when they invaded Africa, they killed off the historians, they killed off the teachers. Why? Because they had the knowledge to pass down that was taught to them from the first, the golden age, the first dynasty that was in Kemet. And so with them having that knowledge passed down to them through the elders, and that history passed down through the elders, it's like they knew this and decided to kill them off so then they can rewrite the history. So far, the history is being rewritten as if Africans are meant to be slaves, right? Like there's also this saying in the Bible how I think black people being descendants of Cush or Ham, was it Ham? I think descendants of Ham, and therefore they are cursed to be slaves. Here's the thing. It goes back to the secret societies. If you want to control people, you do it through fear, right? But if you want to rule people, information is power. So if you don't know something or you can't disprove it to me, I own you, because I can make it to where everybody thinks that this is the absolute truth, because you who know the truth have no way to disprove of that said truth. But me myself, I can disprove of that said truth anytime I feel like it. You know what I'm saying? So when we look at it from, dang, sensor's going off. So when we look at it from that point of view, right, there are plenty of leaders who hid history and did not tell you the truth about history. Okay, now we're gonna get more into it about the Jesus factor in a later episode. But what if changing history and hiding the truth to use it to control people? Why was that done? Right? So what we're saying here is that my theory is that somebody actually did change history. Somebody did actually hide history. Somebody actually did, turn around and create this world of basic meaning. Because remember, the way this person who puts it, what's this guy's name? Herbert. I can't pronounce his last name, but it's Illig. Just look him up. Basically, what he's saying is that there is a time period in a false history that was basically created to where the calendars were changed. We're not dealing with the actual true calendar, the true tropical calendar. We're dealing with the change, the Georgian calendar, right? Right now, we're not in the year 2000 or something. We're actually in the year 1720. It was so he, well at the time. So he puts it. Well, we're actually in the 1700s. Let me just put it that way. So he's saying we're in the early 1700s right now, according to the true calendar. But the Georgian calendar, he said, added over 200 and something years of false history. Now, here's the thing. We already know that other cultures, long before the Romans came along, long before the Greeks came along, had their own system in which they counted dates. Now, they turn around, and like I said, to history goes to, victors. Basically, you have these people who come in and change the calendar to make it seem like there was this great country that lasted so many years, and they were the technology was theirs and stuff like that. Another version of false history we can say is American history. Okay, we can say American history is false history because we know there are plenty of inventions that were done by blacks, that were done by Africans and their descendants, African Americans, who basically were stolen and claimed to be the inventions of their own. You see what I'm saying? We already know that the light bulb existed well before. It was a black man that invented the ligament inside the white light bulb. So we know long before Thomas Edison came along, the light bulb existed. We already know there was an advanced phone before Alexander Graham Bell even came along and tried to do anything with the phone. We know this. There's actually proof of it, and it shows the black man who actually did these things. But when you're in charge of said history, you can lie whatever you want and say whatever you want. it we can do it like this. We can say that in history, Osama bin Laden was killed under President Obama's watch, right? But there are other voices that said Osama bin Laden been dead. He died of natural causes long before Obama was in office. But because of how history is going to be written, and it being a certain history, it's going to be written as if Obama's the one who took out Osama bin Laden. So basically what we're doing is we're creating a false narrative, and we're turning it into a false historical accuracy from our point of view to make ourselves look better than what we actually are. And there are going to be a lot of world leaders that do this. Nobody wants to look like the bad guy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a false history to show you that I'm not the bad guy. All of this is connected to the hitting families. You see how I did that? Because here's the thing. If I tell you the information I want you to have, if I give you the history that never happened, that doesn't exist, you never know the truth. And as long as you don't know the truth about the true history of things, I can't control you. It all goes back to that same thing. So he's claiming that the Pope, the Roman Emperor, and the Byzantine Emperor, they all got together, basically, and saying that, basically changing history, and then create this Charlemagne the Great, who was basically a myth that's similar to King Arthur. King Arthur myth is so powerful, most people can't even tell if it's real or not. But this is what happened. 297 years of history that he says didn't actually happen. It's like this everywhere. It's like, remember the story you was told in school about, and even as kids we knew this was bull crap, how Washington, like, I cannot tell a lie, I chopped down the cherry tree. My first question to my teachers as a young kid was like, who was there to record this? Who was there as the evidence of proof to say he said that? Like, what? Why would you chop down a cherry tree as a kid and then turn around and say, I can't lie, I did it? As a kid, your instinct is to keep from getting into trouble. Okay? Even though you do stuff to get in trouble. You're going to tell me that's like you stealing candy. And then I ask who stole the candy, and you just bust out of nowhere, I can't lie, I did it. Come on, bro. We know that story was created by a Freemason writer. But that's what it is. It's seen as history. It was taught to us as it was something true until we start to question it. Like the whole Benjamin Franklin thing, discovered electricity. First of all, how are you going to discover something that already exists in nature? Here's my thing. A lot of people claim discovery means to find. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure lightning storms have been happening for, I don't know, since the beginning of the earth. You can't discover lightning when lightning is already around you. And then to say you discovered electricity by putting a string, non-conductor, with a copper wire. Okay, here's my question. You have a regular kite, right? So you mean to tell me, and I know lots of people out there, you're better at electronics than I am, you're a better electrician than I am. Tell me if this is true, because this is what I've seen as crap history. You may tell me you take a string, put a key on the end of the string, right? Then you fly the kite up high, right? There's no metal on the kite to attract the lightning. It's just wood and paper. So you take that little bad boy up there, and you mean to tell me that the lightning is going to strike the kite, have lightning come down the string, and then hit the key, and then all of a sudden he discovered electricity, even though Benjamin Franklin didn't know what actually happened, because there's no proof or no way for him to know what actually happened, versus it just going straight directly hitting the key. Make that make sense. Do you see what I'm saying? It's just creating this false narrative of how perfect the founding fathers were. I would rather know the absolute truth about them than for you to paint this little perfect rosy picture about them. Oh, they never made mistakes and they were such great men and they made discoveries that nobody else could make, even though it's already proven in Africa that they actually made ancient batteries. But yeah, he discovered electricity. Let that sink in. But do you see what I'm saying? When you can create a false history and hide the truth from people, people don't know who they are unless they know their history. So when you turn around and change that, like in school, for instance, I know a lot of black people can understand me on this, and some white people can understand me on this too. When we were in school, we were taught that our black history and culture started with us being slaves who came over on a boat from Africa. We was never taught anything before that. So in our history, we're thinking that, oh, we were created to be slaves. Because that's indoctrined in your mind from the education system. We're going to get on that in another conspiracy. But the thing is, if you're giving me this false history of my people always being slaves, how do you think I'm going to think? Like a slave, right? But I'm going to tell you who put me on game. It was this white Southern teacher who was assistant football coach. I think it was Allen or something like that. This white man put everybody on game and he got fired for it. He basically said everything. He was a social studies teacher. He basically said everything you taught is a lie. Native Americans weren't savages. Africans weren't always slaves. You mean to tell me it took a white man in a southern school to tell me that my people weren't always slaves? That Native Americans weren't always savages? Do you see what I'm saying? When you build that false history, when you build those lies and have them as facts and have it as factual history, and you keep people from knowing who they are, how are they going to become better people? You can't become a better person if you don't know who you are. That's why people are out here lost. That's why there's a lot of black people out here lost. That's the reason why there's a lot of minorities out here lost, because they don't know their true history and they're being taught this false narrative. And it's the same thing that has to do with, it's the reason why racism even exists. And white people ain't the first to do it. Like, come on, they're not the first to do it. Stop playing. Stop acting like the white man is the absolute enemy. They're not the first to do it. They learned it from the Arabs. That's historical fact. Any scholar will tell you that slavery was taught to the Europeans from the Arabs. But the thing is that when you're taught this history of saying that, okay, y'all were always slaves, and that's it. That's how the mindset is going to think. But once you let us learn the true history of how we dominated the earth for over 300,000 years, and how we were kings and queens, and how we ruled kingdoms and ran kingdoms, and how there was peace. You had your little battles and skirmishes, but there wasn't all-out war. When you start to learn that true history, then you build a better mindset as a person. Why? Because you know your lineage. You know where you absolutely come from. So when we as kids start questioning that, and teachers would get mad at us, because you know the education system is built to make you dumb. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what nobody says. It's built to make you dumb, because when you start to become a free thinker, you're told no. You get in trouble for being a free thinker. And the crazy part is, it took one teacher to basically one white teacher to basically said everything you've been taught about your history is a lie. Not one black person in my life have ever came up to me and said that your history is false. None. It was a white teacher that told me this in a southern state. So put that all together. So when you are not taught who you really are, you cannot become the best of yourself. And I'm going to put it to you like this, even in another perspective. It doesn't matter if white people are taught in schools how much of the violence their ancestors were involved in. Is that going to make them violent? 9 times out of 10, no. 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, oh, I don't want to be like that. I'm not going to be that type of person. I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be better. You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. We need to know the truth. We need to know the true history. So in order for us to be susceptible to the slave mindset, we have to be lied to, right? So this proves to you that the whole New World Order is not just coming. The New World Order has already began. The New World Order began with the first great Caucasian empire that went and took over these other empires and basically killed off the majority of them and rewrote these people's history to make them sound like they're savages. When you look at it, when you look at the Mayan and Aztec history, savages. Native American history, savages. African history, savages. Do you see the pattern here? So when you're controlling somebody's history and you're lying about it and you're saying that things happened that didn't really actually happen, because here's my thing: who are the greats? Alexander the Great? Oh, he was a formidable military general. But what they didn't teach you was that Alexander stopped trying to conquer Africa because he couldn't get past a certain point in Africa because his armies kept getting beaten. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that. But they'll tell you he was great. They'll tell you how these kingdoms, the Roman Empire was so great and massive and it was magnificent, not realizing that the Roman building designs were the same designs that you can find in Egypt that were thousands of years before the actual Roman Empire even begun. But they don't want to tell you that. They want you to make you think that Africa copied off of Rome, that the Romans came down there and built this stuff when this stuff was already built thousands of years before the Roman Empire. But it's easy for me to sit there and control your mind when I can tell you a history that doesn't even exist versus a history that does exist. Because if you know your true history, I can't control you. Okay? So that's just something to think about. Why is it that they decided to lie about the history? It could all go back to the founding families. These founding families could go back. This proves that maybe these hidden families, these, you know the Bilderbergs and Rockefellers and stuff like that, maybe they're not even the original families. They're working for the original families. This can go back years. Like I said, if you're an anime fan, watch One Piece. It describes it perfectly. One Piece, I'm so glad I brought that up. I'm going to say this before I end this video. Look at One Piece. In the story of One Piece, they have what's called celestial dragons, who are basically rich, uppity as, and majority of them look like white people, who basically think they are better than everybody, and the whole entire world are slaves. And they're descended from the 20 original kings who started the world government. Now, here's the thing. These original 20 families wanted to go against the pirates. Okay? And one specific pirate, Joy Boy, who represented the freedom and the free will of people. They didn't want that. They don't want people to be free. If you're free, I can't control you. If you're free, I have to do it myself. I can't have you do it for me. I don't want to do it. I gotta have a slave to do it for me. So you gotta fight against freedom. And what's the best way to fight against freedom? Is to control the flow of information. And that means also creating a false history. And in one piece, they have what's called the void century, in which all history of that century has been erased. So erasing history is false history, because you're erasing the truth out of history. And so what happened is that the theory is that they came together, created the first world government, went up against Joy Boy, eventually defeated Joy Boy, and basically his will lived on in a fruit that's going to be passed down throughout the ages, and whoever has a similar ideas to Joy Boy will end up rewaking the devil fruit that has his will in it and become like a god, basically, and beat the drums of liberation, basically. So in the show, you have the pirates who represent freedom, whether they're good or bad, and then you have the government, the world government, the celestial dragons with the Marines represent the world government, who are just about control. Now, recently on the show, they showed that the world government, the Gorosei, is ran by 5 people, right? That's the face. But the real person who sits on the throne, Imp, you don't see. That's the reality we live in. Do you see where I'm getting at? You see how genius Oda is as a writer? That's the reality we live in. We live in a reality to which where you got a hidden person who's really running things. And they've been doing this for years and years and years and years. And throughout the years, they're controlling the flow of information. So everything we do now, our future generations, probably 100 years from now, is not even going to know it. You too busy trying to make a name for yourself, and in 100 years, ain't nobody going to remember your name. This one guy in Europe said it perfectly. This one European said it perfectly. He said, history is so messed up, they claim in 100 years that Eminem invented rap. Do you know how powerful that message is? Do you know how powerful that is? For a white man to turn around and say history is so messed up, especially American history, history is so messed up that in 100 years they will say Eminem invented rap. That's powerful. That's powerful, because he's basically telling you not only who runs the world, but what are they doing to run it. And that is creating this false history. So imagine we go with that and say that Eminem, in 100 years, they say Eminem invented rap, right? Well, rap is going to be taken out of the culture of the black people, and it's going to be in the culture of white people. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, okay? Like I said, we got to be free thinkers on this channel. Not saying there's anything wrong with that. We're just talking about the possibility. And what happened is that we can have it to where they use it as a voice that they created. So now we not realizing we created rap. So what are we going to do? We're not even going to try to add on to it. Why? Because we don't even know it's ours to begin with. And even then, rap is basically just a subgenre of African music. Because rap is basically jazz, the blues, you know what I'm saying? Rock and roll, all of that. It's basically a subgenre of that. So think about it, how powerful that is for these hidden families who control history throughout the years, control the flow of information to make you feel like you are nothing. I know this is a long episode. I didn't mean for the episode to go this long. I know it's like 30 minutes right now. So I will say this though. I do thank you for watching this video. We're out here thinking. Leave your comments down below. What do you think as far as the false history goes? What do you think the reason why they're doing it? Okay. And remember, you know, they are watching you.